Welcome to the class. I'm so happy to host these live classes on Mondays. And we do them California time, so it's PST 11:30 in the morning. So I'm here if you want to ask any questions. You please feel free to do that on the chat. If you have any requests, you can message me on these videos and I get the message. If you need a particular class and I'm able to do it, I'm usually more than happy to address any questions that you have if I'm able to do it. And I have a few announcements. If you ever watch the content on my channel, there are some videos there of some classes that I did with Ramanand Patel, my teacher, for about 3 years. We did these Zoom classes, and so all of that content is online now, and I have the links. I'll put the links below in this video, but it's also in all the videos on my channel, the most recent videos that have, little excerpts of those classes that we did. And if you want to watch them, for the month of October, they're going to be available to everybody with the link and the password, and that's all detailed below, so you can check that out. So if you like those classes and you want to, keep doing, it's a 3-year master teacher course. It's very amazing. So check it out. It's free till the end of October. If you need help in accessing it, just reach out and I will help you. But it's so the ones that I put on my channel are little excerpts of things that I find really useful, of things that I am studying more myself. But the linked biz videos are going to be the full length, usually 2.5-hour classes. So I hope that you enjoy those until the end of the month. And then I think it's going to be on a membership kind of plan. But if you're interested, let me know and I will send you the details. If you enjoy these videos, I always appreciate if you like, subscribe, or share these videos. It really does help me grow the channel and get the word out. So for today's video, what we're going to do, or for today's live class, we're going to work on breathing in a yoga pose. I know this is kind of for a lot of students, it may be a very complicated thing because we are breathing all the time, and then how do you breathe in the pose? And sometimes, when do you breathe in, when do you breathe out? And so all those questions come up, and it's a lifelong practice of breathing in your pose, breathing the rest of your day, even while you're not practicing yoga. So there is a practice of pranayama, which is this yogic breath, and that's not what we're going to be doing today, although you can use it for your pranayama practice as well, just as a base. But this is how to breathe in a pose, how to start practicing what that means for you and how to access that. So let's get into it. We work a lot on these classes, on these live classes, on softening the eyes, the ears, and the throat. And we do that in the beginning of class, and it's a very, very important sensitivity to start acquiring. And so we take a moment to do that. So that practice will later inform how much you're able to sense how you're breathing. And so if you ever have any questions of how long should you stay in the pose, should you get into a pose like this or not, you're always going to go back to how is your breathing. Are you breathing freely in this pose? Are you able to breathe without any restrictions? Or is your way for you to be able as a practitioner to practice safely? So if you're starting to hold your breath, or your breathing is very labored, or it's very caught in some parts of your body and your muscles, then you know that maybe you should come out of the pose. So let's start looking at how we build the sensitivity to start feeling your breath in your pose. So let's get onto a mat. And you can do this, all the time. You can do, not while you're driving, but you can really breathe and sense when is it that you're doing something and you start holding your breath. Are you, very maybe into a project where you hold your breath, or you feel like, you're starting to feel a lot of strain while you're breathing? Maybe you should come out for a second, walk around, and then, start maybe nurturing those things that you can do where you can breathe freely. All right, so sit in a comfortable position. So if sitting down is not a comfortable position for you, it's definitely okay to sit on a chair, preferably a chair that doesn't have a slanted seat, so a chair with a flat horizontal seat. And you can also sit on the block if your knees are higher than your hips. Go ahead and sit on the block here. And again, so we're doing this to improve the way that we breathe. So sit here for a moment and just notice, did this improve? Did it release a little bit of that tightening in the groin here? And with that, did it improve your ability to lift the chest and breathe? All right. So in pranayama, when you start that, but we'll use it for here too, you can start understanding, the process of breathing. So we could maybe understand this movement of the rib cage. And so the rib cage can actually muscularly move and expand a little bit and create space for the breath, instead of taking a big breath where you expand your rib cage out. So we want to stay away from that, from breathing, so that we can expand the width of the body. So just use the rib cage, use the intercostal muscles to create space so that the breath can come in. So we're not doing that in a pranayama sense, but just to start out with working with the space that we have and the inner strength that we have to keep the body lifted, the chest lifted. Usually hear of lifting the chest and this, this lift of the spine. And so a lot of times you may ask, what is that? What does that look like? And so we slowly start learning it and then working towards it, and then finally we get it. So it takes time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down to a place where I feel comfortable. My back isn't rounding. If you need to sit against the wall, if you don't have to, don't sit against the wall. It'll build your strength in your back. But if you have to, that's okay. So sit here on your block and then locate your sit bones. So make sure that you have contact with the sit bones and your block. So sometimes we sit down and we try to lift the chest, and we're lifting the sit bones off of the block. So here, really rest the sit bones onto the block. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if I'm sitting here on the block, okay, so I have my block, and I'm sitting down so that I'm not rounding the back here. So I'm really sitting onto my sit bones. If I need to sit on 2 blocks, that's fine. If I need to sit on a chair, that's also okay. So pressing the sit bones down onto the block. Release any tension in the eyes, the ears, and the throat. And take a few breaths. With every breath that you take, you release any tension in the eye, any tension in the ears, and any tension in the throat. And keep on breathing, savoring every breath. Really feeling the amount of energy that you receive with every single breath. It oxygenates almost every single cell in your body. It gives you joy, brings you energy. So receive that gift. Take a breath. Press the sit bones down onto the block and lift the chest. So keep breathing, releasing the eyes, the ears, and the throat as you inhale. And not worrying too much about this lateral extension of the ribs, but just understanding that there is a muscular, at first, there's a little bit of a muscular effort. And we're working towards ease of that lift. So first you're going to feel maybe a strain in the back as you're developing your lift. So lift and see, are you lifting here from the groin? Are you lifting your sit bones away from the block? So see if you can ground the leg, which means make contact with those sit bones and your block or the floor or the chair, and then lift from the pelvic floor. So lift from the base, from the pelvic floor. So the next step up is you have this spine here. And the spine has this normal curve. So you have a lumbar curve, and then you have a little bit of another curve and a curve here in the neck. So you never want to straighten that out. You want to maintain the normal curve of the back, okay, of the spinal cord. And next we'll work on the stomach. So now we have sensed the sit bones in contact with the block, grounding the legs so that they're not puffing up or lifting up, and then softening the eyes and the ears and the throat, making sure that we don't tighten here while we breathe and then lift. So next, I think of the belly. Give the next few breaths that you take, make sure that you're not tightening any part of your abdomen or your abs or the sides of the belly. So breathe, soften the belly, sit bones to the block, and then lift. And at first, it's kind of a puzzle because everything is connected, and we tighten the thigh, we tighten the groins, we lift, so step by step, you can work on one thing a day. And today we'll go through, the different layers, but you can, every day before your practice, pick one and practice. So ground the sit bones, soften the belly, and lift. If there's any tension that accumulates here in the back of the head, in this occipital area of the head, release that tension. So as you soften the eyes, release any tension back here or on the temples. And breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Okay, so we learned how to really allow these sit bones to be touching where you're sitting, softening the belly, understanding that we're not straightening the spine here, we're just lifting, allowing that normal curve of your spine to just be there. And now comes it's almost like an inner strength. And so here, if I had, 100 pounds on each shoulder, I would, I could collapse with that. But if I was able to keep this structure of my torso intact, I would also have this inner length. And a nice way to think about it is through this imagery of these two hands that somehow can support the lungs up, and so that there's no effort to keeping them up. So it's these hands that support the lungs up, and you can lift the chest, and as you exhale, that lift still remains. So it's kind of an energetic lift. So at first we need more muscular strength to keep that integrity of the lift. Eventually we allow the sit bones to sit, the belly to soften, and that lift to remain in the chest. Or if the lungs, this is just another imagery, if the lungs were filled in this helium, the helium, those balloons that float the big, helium balloons. So if you could fill your lungs with that, you would experience that lift, that inner lift of the lungs, while the skin of the spine, the skin of the back moves down towards the sacrum. So this skin here moves down, so you're not bringing, you're not bringing the shoulders up for the lift. That skin is moving down, this skin is moving up, and you're lifting, and you're grounding the sit bones, and then lifting right from the pelvic floor, receiving that lift, almost like, a levitation of this energy, but we don't block it. We soften the eyes, the ears, and the throat, and we're not trying to raise anything. We're literally just trying to create a lift. Okay, a lift of the chest, a strength, not a lift of energy. We're not trying to rise the Kundalini. That happens on its own. So we make sure that the sit bones are grounded, the gripping here. If we can't let go of this grip here, create even more of a grip, and then let go, soften the belly, and then allow that sensation of the helium balloons lifting the inner chest, and then make sure that you don't bring the shoulders up. The skin of the back flows down, skin of the front, almost like a conveyor belt, comes up and goes back down. Soften the eyes, the ears, and the throat. And then notice, by doing this, is your breath free? Are you able to breathe a little bit more freely, or are you starting to feel places where you're gripping in your back? Where in the body are these diseases or these defense mechanisms that we build up throughout time? Where are they? And so with the breath, start the same way you learn how to softening these areas that start to grip and pull, discomfort, create blockages in the body. So lift and breathe. So soften the groins if those tend to come back out and pull or puff up, or sort of lift up with the muscle. Just release them and ground the sit bones. And so this is a really nice exercise to start discovering your breath, discovering that lift. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use that in a pose. How you would breathe in a pose. So make sure that when you're doing this, if you start, gathering tension in the head, release the eyes, the ears, and the throat. There's also a head diaphragm that we work with, and we work with this diaphragm in every pose as well. And that's another gauge of if you're pushing too much in a pose, or if you're doing the pose correctly. Actually, there should never be any pressure in the eyes, the ears, and the throat, and a collapse of that lift. So the lift is always there in every pose. You don't collapse when you come out of the pose. Even with a tight body, there can be that sense of lift. And slowly, as the body opens and changes, then flexibility is there, but the lift is always there. So I can go over the head diaphragm in a few minutes, so we can at least have a concept of what that's like. So the head diaphragm is imaginary, so it's not there. It's not like this diaphragm that we have here that we can actually, when we dissect a body, we can actually see it. The head diaphragm is more of an energetic diaphragm. There's one here and there's one in the head. There's a lot of different diaphragms in the body. So if you think of if the circumference of your head here, right? So I would not use my index finger or my thumb on my forehead, but if I could place my hands on my head like this, and my hands were big enough to go around and make contact with the whole circumference of my head. When I inhale, I would press into that skin. And when I inhale, I would release, not lose contact, but I would release. So inhale, I would give a little pressure all the way around the head. Exhale, release. So inhale. It works better when somebody else can do this for you. So you would inhale and press in. Exhale, release. And so when you inhale, the brain, you imagine the brain releasing in on an exhalation, and then the brain releasing out in an exhalation. So it's never a sense of the brain expanding, because that would imply just tension or not being able to expand. So the brain is just releasing out on exhalation and releasing in on inhalation. So you would first start working with grounding the sit bones, releasing the groin, grounding the legs so that they're not lifting up as you're trying to lift up the chest. Then work on the stomach muscles, releasing the stomach muscles, making the belly nice and soft so that you can ground the femurs, maintain these muscles relaxed and grounded so that you can lift from the pelvic floor with the soft belly. If this is very tight, it creates a little bit of a resistance to lifting. Then we're not thinking of the spine as a straight spine, but a healthy spine with its curves and just being strong and supported. And then we think of the body as, muscularly and nice and strong, but we're not lifting here with the arms. We're allowing the skin of the back to flow down like a big waterfall down your back. Like a conveyor belt, the front skin of the body here comes up and then goes down behind the collarbones and goes back down. So the skin is constantly coming up, but you're having that feeling that it's not, coming up over the head here. It's just the body lifted. So that's all the outer musculature. And then we think of these levitating, helium almost energy that's just holding the chest up from the inside, but without any tension, so that when you breathe, that breath can be free and move throughout the body without any restraining, without any gripping. And of course, the eyes, ears, and throat are always kept soft. So as you do this, sometimes we maybe can add some tension to the eyes, to the ears. Maybe we can grip the tongue. So make sure the tongue is soft and relaxed. The ears are relaxed. There isn't any pressure building up in the back of the head. So once you've practiced these steps for a few months, you may want to add the head diaphragm to that. And the head diaphragm would be, once we can ground the sit bones and lift, we start inhaling and then feeling like we can release the brain in on inhalation and release the brain out on exhalation. And that's the process of breathing. And then you slowly start incorporating that into your yoga practice, as long as it doesn't create more stress or it doesn't create more tension. And so if everybody wants to give it a try, let's get up onto Tadasana and let's work on the lift of the chest in Tadasana. So we'll do two poses here. We don't have too much time left. We'll stand up here. So this is, a great exercise that at first, when you start out, there's a lot of information. So keeping all the points together takes a minute. But after you've done it for a few months, you can really reset. It's really great if you have a tension headache coming in and you sense it early enough, and you can work through these steps and really watch it just melt away. Different moments of anxiety and things like that are really great ways to start breathing. Of course, incorporating it into your yoga practice. So here I am in Tadasana. And same thing here. Here I'm going to tuck my pelvis a little more so that I don't over untuck. If you tend to tuck, then make sure you give your spine its normal curve. So here I'm going to ground the feet. I'm going to lift the arches of the foot, and lifting the arches of the foot is going to support the pelvic floor. So once I have that foundation, when I'm sitting down, I ground my sit bones. But when I'm standing up, really the power is in the feet. And by lifting the arch of the feet, I'll show you that. So here, really placing that foot and spreading the toes and then lifting the arch and this fourth arch and this main arch here, making sure that I'm not collapsing the inner heel, and then just really lifting the arches of my foot, of both of my feet. Okay, so making that leg very active, lifting the kneecaps and the arches, supporting my pelvic floor here. And then once I have that base, very active legs, which means the muscle is hugging the bone here, lifting the kneecaps. Then I'm able to start sensing, okay, here's that lift. And can I soften the eyes, the ears, and the throat? And if I go into, let's just say, a forward fold, a forward bend, can I maintain that lift? And so as I come down, so I have, I'm softening my eyes, the ears, the throat. I'm paying attention to the head diaphragm so that it's never reversed, so that when I inhale, I'm releasing in, exhale, I'm releasing out. And I start coming, I am lifting from the pelvic floor. And as I come down into my forward fold, if I have to round the back too much because of tightness, am I losing my lift and my ability to breathe? And if I am, then it's more important to breathe well in the pose than to get all the way down to the floor. So then I could come to a wall here and maintain my lift. I can ground my sit bones. I can lift the back of the leg, and I can create that space where I can breathe freely. I can release my head diaphragm if I have to. I can soften the eyes, the ears, and the throat. And I can have a practice where I'm not making my breathing suffer because I want to get into a certain shape. So, yeah, I work here. And I work on opening these channels to breathe so that I can breathe freely in a pose. Sometimes you can get into the pose and really push something where that you can't breathe freely anymore, and you're really feeling tightness in the jaw and the eyes and the ears and the throat. And so that would be where you would say, okay, I'm going to back up a little bit, get up, lift the chest, soften eyes, ears, and throat, breathe freely, and go up until the point where I can't breathe like that anymore. So that would be maybe the foundation of learning how to breathe in a pose. I hope that you enjoy this class, and please send me any comments or suggestions, and see you next week. Thank you so much for watching.